बुद्धं नमामि धम्मं नमामि संघं नमामि।
नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो
समा समुदास।
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि। बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि।
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि। पानातिपाता वीरमणि पानातिपाता वीरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि।
अदिन्नदाना वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि।
कामेषु मिच्छाचारा वीरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि।
मुसावादा वेरमणि मुसावादा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि।
सूरामेरयमज सूरामेरयमज
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि। बुद्धं नमामि
धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि सङ्घं शरणं गच्छामि
and again has been going on for a very long time. Now, since this habit is something that we have created, we ourselves must discreate it. Now, this is where mindfulness needs to come into action. To overcome the habit of thinking and rethinking, we need to silence the mind until the momentum of silence naturally break the habit pattern of our mind. We need to train the mind until we can develop the ability to see and just see, or seeing, just hearing, saying, hear, just hear, that manner, hearing, just hearing, like that, without attaching any values to what we see, we hear, and so on, right? Now, an effective method of silencing the mind is through the cultivation of samatha vipassana meditation. That is the meditation on calmness and insight, which is based on the cultivation of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Now, what are the 4 foundations of mindfulness? The opening verse of the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. Now, this is the discourse the Buddha gave on how to cultivate mindfulness. And in fact, it is one of the most important discourses in the whole Tripitaka, in the whole Buddhist scriptures. Yeah. And here the Buddha outlined 5 important functions of mindfulness. Buddha said, Ekayano ayang bhikkwe maggo sattanang visuddhya soka paridavanang samatikkamaya dukkha domanasanang attangamaya nyayasa adigamaya nibbanasa sachikriyaya yadidang chattaru satipatthana. Addressing the monks, the Buddha said, O monks, this is the one and only path for the purification of beings. Here, the purification of beings means the purification of one's mind from the tendencies of greed, hatred, and delusion. Then the second function is overcoming sorrow and lamentation. Then the cessation of mental and physical stress. The attainment for higher knowledge and the right path, and the realization of Nibbana, namely through the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Yeah. What are these 4 foundations of mindfulness? Mindfulness on the body, mindfulness on feelings, mindfulness on the mind or the state of mind, and mindfulness on Dhamma. Now, mindfulness on the body, when we talk about mindfulness on the body, there are actually 6 different aspects. And the first aspect to the cultivation of mindfulness on the body refers to anapanasati. That's where mindfulness and breathing, yeah, that's the first aspect of mindfulness on the body, to be mindful of the breath body. Then mindfulness on the 4 body postures, sitting, standing, walking, or moving around, and lying down. And clear comprehension of all bodily activities. In other words, whatever activities that we perform with our body, eating, drinking, answering the call of nature, everything we are mindful so that distractions does not come in. Yeah. Then the next aspect of mindfulness is also the 4 elements. Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. Earth, water, fire, and wind element. And the characteristics of these elements, and Patavi, earth element, hardness and softness. Right? Apo, water, is the cohesion, the stickiness of it. Yeah, that's how we apply mindfulness on the body. And then Tejo. Tejo is the fire element, heat, hot and cold. That's how. And also Vayu, wind element, that conditions motion and movement. Yeah. If we are not mindful of these four elements, then our mind gets distracted and we are not able to maintain our focus on the breath. Yeah. Then the next aspect of mindfulness on the body refers to mindfulness on the 32 parts of body, where we analyze the body into 32 parts. There are more than 32 parts of the body, but the science in India at that time analyzes this body. Imasmin kaye kesa. Kesa, hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, bones, and so on. So when we contemplate, as if we remove all these different parts and display before us, then we start to see the reality of this body, what we call this self. Yeah. Then, if the contemplation 32 parts of body and is not strong enough, then there's another contemplation, the 9 symmetry contemplation, whereby we contemplate the different stages of decomposition of the body. Now, all these different aspects of mindfulness on the body enable one to realize its true nature so that we become less attached to this body. Then, mindfulness on feelings. 3 kinds of feelings: pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. And mindfulness on the mind. This refers to the different states of mind, whether conditioned by craving, aversion, or delusion. In other words, when there's craving, when desire or lustful desire arises, we know, we are aware there is desire. When anger arises, we are aware there's anger. When the mind is deluded or confused, we are also aware that there is confusion in mind. And so this mindfulness of mind refers to these different states of mind. When the mind is concentrated, we know there's concentration. And how far our mind has gone, that means this is how we are able to identify the different meditative states of mind, the jhanas or mental absorption. Yeah. And so this is when we are aware of the different levels of concentration. Then mindfulness on Dhamma. Mindfulness on Dhamma refers to 5 different aspects of Dhamma. Although the word Dhamma has very many meanings, in the context of the 4 foundations of mindfulness, it refers to these 5. First, the 5 mental hindrances, 5 aggregates, the 6 sense bases, 7 factors of enlightenment, and the 4 noble truths. The 5 mental hindrances. Anyone who tries to meditate will experience one or more of these 5 mental hindrances. The hindrances of Kama, Chanda, Vyapada, Tinamitta, Uddhaca, Kukucca, Vichikicha. There is desire, sensual desire. When sensual desire arises, concentration is gone. And Vyapada, anger. When anger or aversion arises, concentration gone. Yeah. Then Tinamitta, sloth and torpor of the mind. There is this inertia of the mind. So when there's sloth and torpor, then you feel sleepy and drowsy. So concentration gone. That's why it is called a hindrance. Yeah. Then restlessness and worry. and doubts. So these 5 mental hindrances, when we are able to keep these 5 mental hindrances under control, that's where the jhana factors arises. And then the mind becomes more and more clear and stable. Yeah. And that's how the next factor of enlightenment, the next mindfulness of Dhamma, the 5 aggregates. What are the 5 aggregates? Now, this is very important. The Buddha analyzes the self. What we refer to as I, my, me and my, this self. Buddha analyzed this into these 5 aggregates of Panchakanda. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Rupa is the form, our appearance, form. Then we have feelings. Then we have Sanya. Sanya is our perception, memories. Sankara, mental formations, the ideas and the thoughts that we create in our mind, and consciousness. And these are the 5 aggregates. And these 5 aggregates are actually constantly in a state of flux. So where there is grasping, the 5 grasping aggregates, that is what dukkha, the more profound meaning of the term dukkha. Yeah. And how does these 5 aggregates arise? They actually arise through our 6 sense bases, our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. When we see something or hear something, then thoughts arises. And that's how the 5 aggregates arises. So when we become familiar with 5 aggregates, then the next thing is we move on to the 7 factors of enlightenment. And these 7 factors of enlightenment will take us step by step until we experience the bliss of Nibbana. Yeah. And then the next aspect of mindfulness and Dhamma, the 4 noble truths. It is only when we have a glimpse of what Nibbana is about, the emptiness, then the 4 noble truths can be fully realized. Yeah. So this is how these 4 foundations of mindfulness develop progressively, one after another. Mindfulness on the body will naturally lead to mindfulness on feelings, and then to the mind or mental states, and then finally to the Dhamma. What happens is when we develop mindfulness on the body, whether it be our breath or any aspect of mindfulness on the body, this body will begin to fade away and dissolve. Then feelings, we become sensitive to our feelings. And when we observe the feelings, whether pleasant or unpleasant, that also will slowly fade away and dissolve. And that's where it leads to our mind, we become sensitive to our mind, the state of mind. And we observe a state of mind, observe the thoughts that arises and ceases, the thoughts will also cease. And that's where the mind becomes more and more stable and clear, and then leads on to mindfulness on the Dhamma. Yeah. So, and mindfulness as taught by the Buddha is not merely for relaxation, not merely for stress management or a therapy for certain mental or mood disorder. They are useful. They are useful. And but it is what the Buddha prescribed. Mindfulness, the teaching of mindfulness is what the Buddha prescribed to end all sufferings, the sufferings that accompanies birth, old age, sickness, and death, through the purification of the mind from the tendencies of greed, hatred, and delusion. It is the tendency of greed, hatred, delusion that conditions all the stress and tensions in our daily life. Yeah. Now, the magic of mindfulness lies in our ability to cut off any unwholesome state of mind at the point of contact through the application of bare attention and awareness. When craving or lustful desire arises, if we are mindful of that state of mind, in that moment, we have already stepped out of that unwholesome state of mind. So, in the same manner, the moment we are aware and mindful of our anger or confused state of mind, we have already stepped out of the anger and confusion. Then we can apply whatever tools, whatever methods that we have learned to maintain our calmness and clarity of mind. This is how mindfulness enables one to break the links of paticca samuppada or dependent origination. Dependent origination explains how suffering arises and how suffering ceases. When we are mindful at the point of contact through the six sense bases and the sense objects, feeling will not arise. When we are mindful of feeling, just as feeling, then craving will not arise. Yeah, aversion will not arise. So similarly, when we are mindful of the craving state of mind, craving will immediately cease. That is how the cycle of becoming can be ended. Now, without mindfulness, our mind are often driven by our own frivolous thoughts and emotions. And we tend to get stuck in all our feelings, our preconceived ideas and imagination, and our judgment. Now, this is how fear, anxiety, and depression develop. It is through the cultivation of mindfulness that we will be able to break this vicious cycle. And the continuity of mindfulness is needed to break our habitual tendency to bring about a real transformation of character. Now, the regular practice of meditation for at least half an hour or more on a daily basis and its application to our daily lives, this will provide a good foundation for a proper meditation retreat. It is under retreat conditions that we will be able to develop the continuity of mindfulness for a prolonged period. And that will effectively bring about real transformation. Transformation from an ordinary, careless being to a good human being. And from a good human being to a noble and worthy one, overcoming the tendencies of greed, hatred, and delusion. Now, although the texts and commentaries on Satipatthana Sutta outline all the details of the cultivation of the four foundations of mindfulness, in actual practice, with proper guidance, when one is able to develop the four jhanas through the cultivation of the first aspect of mindfulness on the body, that is namely anapanasati, our mindfulness on breathing in and out. And this is how when we train our mind with anapanasati, our mind can develop the different jhanas. And one does not need to go through all the details step by step. Once the four jhanas have developed, mindfulness on feelings and the mind is naturally included. Entering the first jhana, one overcomes the unpleasant feelings associated with the prolonged sitting. And then one begins to experience some pleasant sensation. And as one progresses to the second jhana, the pleasant sensation becomes even stronger. And in the third jhana, the pleasant feeling becomes very subtle and begin to fade away. And in the fourth jhana, and even the pleasant sensation is gone. So as we train our mind in these four jhanas, we train our mind to overcome not only the unpleasant sensation, but even the pleasant sensation we don't cling on to. So all these three kinds of feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant, will be experienced as we develop the four jhanas. That's why in a Noble Eightfold Path, the Samma Samadhi, or right concentration, refers to Patama, Dutiya, Tatiya, Chaturtha jhana, first, second, third, and the fourth jhana. That's how we develop right concentration. Yeah. Now, with proper guidance, one will be able to differentiate the different state of mind as one progresses through the various levels of concentration. When the mental hindrances such as craving, aversion, sloth and torpor, restlessness, worry, doubt, when they are at least temporarily checked, only when these five mental hindrances are subdued, then the jhana factors, vitaka, vichara, piti, sukham, ekagata arise. Vitaka is the applied thought. When we tell you to bring your attention to your breath, that is vitaka. And then we tell you to keep your attention on the breath. That is vichara. And if you are able to maintain your attention on the breath for a longer period of time, then piti sukhang will arise. Then you have the joy and the bliss that will arise. So, in this way, the development of the four jhanas effectively prepares one's mind to cultivate mindfulness on the Dhamma. And the development of mindfulness on Dhamma in all its five aspects, the five mental hindrances, five aggregates, six sense bases, the seven factors of enlightenment, and the four noble truths. Now, they are important to cultivate step by step. Yeah. And so that this is how we realize the path and fruition that leads to the realization of Nibbana. The cultivation of the four foundations of mindfulness essentially constitute meditation, practice of samatha vipassana, calmness and insight. Samatha is the calmness and tranquility aspect, which involves the development of the jhanas. Vipassana is the training of the mind to develop wisdom and insight into the three characteristics of existence, namely anicca or impermanence, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, suffering, and anatta is non-self. Now, they are not two different kinds of meditation. Samatha vipassana actually complement one another. Yeah. It is the systematic practice of samatha vipassana that leads one to one's final liberation through the accomplishment of the four stages of sainthood or arahathood, namely Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arhat. Now, those who have higher aspirations to lead others to cross this ocean of samsara, the cycle of birth and death, they need to equip themselves with greater knowledge and skills until perfect enlightenment is attained. The Buddha, when we recite the qualities of the Buddha, we say, Itipiso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho, and so on. Remember the first two qualities. The Buddha was not only an Arahant, but Buddha was also a Samma Sambuddha, a fully enlightened through his own efforts. So as we walk in the footsteps of the Buddha, whether through the Arahat or the Bodhisattva path, we will eventually become like the lovely white lotus, unsoiled by the muddy waters. Yeah. So, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, we are living in a time of great change, which means to say that we have no choice but to change ourselves, to transform ourselves. We need to transform ourselves in order to transform and eventually transcend the world. Metta and mindfulness are powerful tools for self-transformation. Transformation is essential in order to develop the wisdom and insight that will enable us to see things from a different perspective and to have greater acceptance towards this rapidly changing world. As we transform ourselves, so will others too around us be transformed. Now, as we celebrate Vesak 2021, let us determine to walk in the footsteps of the Buddha and to practice together, offering our Dhamma practice to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha through the million minutes of metta and mindfulness. Million minutes of metta and mindfulness is an initiative to connect all our Dhamma brothers and sisters to practice together, to alleviate the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on an individual and global level. By transforming ourselves through the practice of metta and mindfulness, then we offer this practice to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha and invoke their blessings, guidance, and protection for a swift end to this current crisis. The practice of metta and mindfulness in your daily activities will bring about a positive transformation within yourself by reducing the tendencies of greed, hatred, and delusion. And these are the root cause of all our fear, worry, and anxiety, and also all the stress and tensions in our lives. So this will enable us to face the challenges of our time. As we transform ourselves, so too will others around us be transformed. This is how we'll be able to contribute to peace, harmony, and stability in the family, society, nation, and the world. Self-transformation is about change, not just small changes, but they are big changes. They are lasting change in our habits and attitude to life. Transformation takes place when we reach a certain critical point. Just like water, water needs to reach a certain critical temperature of 0 degrees centigrade and to be transformed to ice. So in the same manner, for transformation to take place within ourselves, we need to build up our practice in order to reach a critical point in terms of wisdom. For transformation at a global level, we need all your participation in order to reach a critical mass in collective consciousness. This will bring about a swift and a positive change to the critical situation that we are facing with COVID-19. It will usher in a new normal of peace, harmony, and stability to all. So please encourage your family members, relatives, and friends to join us in this global initiative. The million minutes of metta and mindfulness is not just about accumulating minutes. It is to encourage everyone, young and old, to put metta and mindfulness into practice wherever you are, anytime, anywhere, and for any duration. There is no target to achieve a million minutes of metta and mindfulness within a certain time limit. It will be ongoing. until the crisis is over, and perhaps until you gain your final liberation. Yeah. Now, for those who are familiar with the formal practice of meditation on metta and mindfulness, on breathing, that is anapanasati, we recommend that you do it at least once, if not twice daily. However, if you are not familiar with these practices, but you have some other practices that inculcate love and compassion, that trains the mind to become calm and have clear awareness, then you are welcome to substitute this instead. For example, this could be your chanting, your mantra chanting, such as Om Mani Padme Hum. Then the great compassionate mantra of Tapeto